Are you in a marriage, long term partnership, or currently dating and looking for a perspective on paying down debt and bouncing back from money mistakes? Keep listening as we have a candid conversation from one of our favorite physician couples. Hello, and welcome to the Wealth Minded MD podcast with your money best friends. I'm Dr. Brittany Helford.
And I'm Dr. Alicia Taylor.
And of course, we're here to help you build wealth and make good money decisions so you can create the life you desire with more control over your time. Alicia, can we talk about one of the most important money moves we've made as doctors? And I don't know about you, but for me, when I think about this, it's actually insurance. Yes, I know it's not sexy, but it is absolutely essential, especially disability insurance.
Facts. I got mine right after med school, before residency even started. And let me tell you, Prati Botto at PKA Insurance Group made the whole process so smooth. He actually cared, broke down everything, explained the fine print, and got me the best policy for the best price.
And what I love is that he treats everyone like that, residents, attendings, even docs on visas. He literally got you. He's super responsive, super knowledgeable. And if there's a better deal out there, he will tell you.
Oh, and if you're healthy, you could get approved for up to 10 million in life insurance. So not just disability insurance in only 5 minutes. No labs, no hassle.
So if you're serious about protecting your income and your family, call 1-800-258-1018.
Or email pradeep at pkainsurance.com.
Are you ready to negotiate like a boss? Let's be real. Most employees don't negotiate, but their employers expect them to. That means you're literally leaving money, benefits, and flexibility on the table.
But not anymore. Just as our client, after going through the Negotiate Like a Boss Accelerator, she landed a big salary increase, the schedule she actually wanted, and more time to spend with her family and pursue her passion.
You'll get proven scripts and tools to negotiate with clarity and confidence, live hot seat coaching to practice and perfect your pitch, and real time feedback so you're not guessing, you're growing.
Because, like I always say, I work better when I'm paid well. Don't wait. Procrastination is a pricey mistake.
Enroll in Negotiate Like a Boss Accelerator today. Click the link in the show notes. This opportunity will not be around forever. All right, Alicia, I am super excited about this conversation that we just had with the beautiful couple that just really inspired me, doctors Nii and Renée Darko. I was laughing. I was almost brought to tears. Girl, it was a really, really nice conversation that we had.
Yeah, I loved it too. And one of the things that I like, as you know this about me, Brittany, is I'm nosy. I'm nosy. I like to know the inner workings of what's going on in people's lives, especially when it comes to money. I'm dating, you're married. And so I'm always looking for insight into how do other couples, how do other people handle money? How do they handle it when both people are doctors? How do they handle it when one person makes substantially more than the other, when one person's in training and one person's out of training, when one person, or in this case, both people, got a lot of debt, right? How do they navigate paying down that debt, push through any money mistakes that they might have made in the past in order to set themselves up for the future? None of us is perfect. And so sometimes I think learning from other people's mistakes really helps us gain experience and clarity that we can use in our own lives. And so I agree with you. This interview was exciting and I love it. One of the things we're going to do is break this up into 2 episodes because it was getting a little long. We got a little too happy. And so we're going to break this up into 2 parts and you are going to listen to part 1 right now.
All right. Oh my gosh. So, Nii and Renée, thank you both for being here on the podcast with us. We are super excited to have you. I had a ton of fun being on your podcast, Docs Outside the Box. And I hope that this episode here on the Wealth Minded MD podcast is just as fun, if not more. So let's open up. Tell us a little bit about yourselves and how you got into the personal finance space.
Hey, thank you, ladies. Thank you so much, Brittany and Leisha, for having us on your podcast. And yes, Brittany, honestly, I have to say that your episode was one of my favorite episodes since 2016. I really have to tell you. I did say that. To Nii. Look at him, he's shaking his head. Some of us are the protagonist and some of us are the antagonists. So let me introduce myself as the protagonist. My name is Renée Darko. I'm an OBGYN. I am the wife of Dr. Nii Darko and the mother of his two crazy sons.
That's right.
Yes, and we absolutely have been through a crazy journey over the last little bit over 10 years, and all started with us essentially trying to pay off our student loan debt, which we acquired obviously while going to medical school, and deferring and forbearing and doing all of these things. Finally paid that off. Started this podcast a few years later, and here we are, like just kind of talking about money, about medicine, really trying to share our story with other physicians and other medical professionals in hopes that, one, they get to learn from our mistakes. Two, that we get better as a couple with what we're doing with our finances, and hopefully generations to come in our family will also do better.
All right, so I'm Dr. Leisha Taylor. I'm the one that doesn't know you all as well, but I am very excited. I have listened to your podcast, Docs Outside the Box. I've enjoyed myself listening to you two banter and talk about money and marriage and pop culture and all of the things. And I'm also the person out of me and Brittany that is the nosiest. So I'm just going to put this out there, okay? You two have been married for, it seems like 12 years. Brittany's been married for a long time. I am not married. I am dating, and I am soaking up all the information from successful couples. I used to work in finance before I became a physician, and one of my life's missions is to not only practice medicine, but to help other physicians and young professionals with money. And so that's kind of what prompted me to partner with Brittany, and we've started this podcast. But of course, I want to hear more about your story. You mentioned, Renee, that you all paid off a lot of student loan debt, and Brittany and I know all too well that a lot of doctors have a lot of student loan debt. So why don't we just start there? Like, you paid off a lot of debt. How much debt did y'all have? And what was that journey like? Was it easier or harder than what you expected?
Hey, Renee, you not gonna mention the IRS debt that you had also that you contributed to this?
Oh, okay.
So listen, she trying to give you like the regular, like, oh, you just had student loan debt. Renee, stop fronting. You brought in some IRS debt that I wasn't aware of, and we got into a major issue about that. So bring that up also. Represent the debt right.
First of all, he was well aware, number one. And number two, he also brought in some debt from some buster house that he bought in 2006. And we all know what happened in 2008, talking about I'm sorry, but your house is now worth 50% or less than what you bought it for.
We probably had like close to like $900,000 of total debt. 662 of it was student loans between some IRS debt that Renee had, and then I had a like $176,000 mortgage from a house that I got in 2006 when anybody could get a home loan. So I finished med school. I had no money to put down. They just gave me a house and a mortgage just based off of the potential. In October of 2014, we made a decision that, the student loans are something that we got to take care of ASAP because this is a major problem. We can't make moves the way how we want to make moves. We kind of just thought that once we became doctors, we'd be more in control of everything, right? Like telling me when I go to work, like why I gotta listen to when someone tells me when to work. At least me, I didn't think a doctor was to be told those things, but lo and behold, I had learned. Just certain other things that we just had to abide by. And it wasn't until our honeymoon that we realized it was like, that was our first vacation that we took in like over 10 years. And it was so refreshing to take a vacation, to just get away. We did it for a month. And during that time, we talked and we're like, when is the next time after this vacation or after this honeymoon are we going to be able to come back and do something like this? And there was this awkward silence of this ain't never going to happen again, basically. Mainly because we got to pay off this debt. We'll be working. And that just wasn't acceptable to us. So at that point, we were thinking to ourselves, the reason why we feel like we probably can't do what we can't do is we owe people money. If we wanted to just walk away from our jobs, we can't do it because at the end of the month, Sally Mae is going to be like, where's my check? Nelnet or whatever servicer is going to be like, we want our money. So we kind of just started down this path of just figuring out how could we detach ourselves from debt and kind of give us the lifestyle that we always kind of dreamt of. And that's what started us down this path.
Yeah, there was a point at which a couple of years before we got married, we both had whole life insurance policies at that time. So when we got married, our life insurance policies as well as our disability insurance policies, we kind of were going over our finances and realized that we were putting more towards those policies than we were towards our debt, student loans in particular. And we were like, we got to switch our priorities. It's not that we didn't need life insurance, but the question was, how much life insurance did we have? What type of life insurance did we need? What amount of disability insurance we needed? And so that really catapulted this journey of, listen, we got to pay down this debt. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to do anything that we want to do. So yeah, we went to work. We literally went to work. We were working permanent jobs, and then we were doing locums as well. We had both started our careers doing locums right out of residency. So we continued doing locums, and that's how we just really started paying down that debt.
If I may piggyback off of what you said, nobody's going to care about your money more than you. And you got to be really careful because there are hawks out there that see you as a target. And that's what happened to me. So I was in Miami. I was at a party and I met an insurance agent, and that was a big mistake. And this insurance agent eventually got me to have a meeting with them on campus, got me into some disability insurance. I'm not going to mention the company, but y'all know which one probably. And then that bled into getting whole life insurance. They're talking a whole bunch of different things, and if you're young and you're not used to having money, they'll speak a good game, but they're not prioritizing what's important for you. They're only prioritizing what's important for them. They got me in a mindset of, yeah, you need to have a whole life plan. You need to have an excessive disability plan so that if any type of issue or situation happens, then you're protected. But they didn't take into account, or I don't know if they cared or not, we had massive student loan debt. At least I have massive student loan debt. For me, should have been the priority. But this is what I'm mentioning. Like, if you don't know much about your own finances, somebody else is going to drive that for you. And they're going to do it for priority that, for the most part, may not be yours as the number one priority. So that was also another generating thing of, yo, if we don't take the reins of this on our own, in 15 years, we're going to be really sorry.
Oh my gosh. So there's a lot to unpack there. And thank you all for being so honest and vulnerable, because oftentimes we don't hear these stories. We only see the victories, right? We only see the success that you all have been married for 12 years. You got 2 kids. You paid off all of your debt. You're thriving in your careers. But we don't understand sometimes that journey, the mistakes, everything that it took in order for you to get there. So I wholeheartedly appreciate this. I'm inspired. So let me just tell you, thank you for being here. So sometimes we think that is only the student loans when you get married. When there's this merger of self, there's a stark reality that you also have this merger of your finances. So you all had student loan debt, you had a mortgage, and you had some IRS debt. So my first question for you is, how did you all come to terms with this debt is ours? Did you say that this debt is ours and we got to get a plan? Like, what was that conversation about? Hey, this is what I got and this is what, oh, and by the way, you didn't know that I also have this thing. Sorry if I'm bringing up some trauma, but please let us know, because I think that this could help some of those like Leisha or some people who are even in hiding. There are many people who are hiding their debt from their partners. I think that this could be very transformative for our audience.
He tried it. He first came with, let's
go.
get a prenup before we got married. I
Here
was
we
like,
go.
you ain't got nothing. You have nothing.
Dr. Leisha, Dr. Brittany, I drove a 2003 Volkswagen Jetta, yo. It was nice. I had like 120,000 miles on
Had
it.
the shocks of a tricycle. Okay.
6 CD changer. She was trying to get me for that, yo. So it was like, listen, I got to protect myself, yo. Cruise control.
So that conversation, it wasn't as contentious as you would think it would be, at least between us. One thing about us was that, we met shortly before medical school, and throughout medical school, we always had money go between us, right? Like, so I'd buy lunch and he'd buy lunch, or he'd ask me, hey, can you do me a favor and pay my rent? Because he was like away. He's like, I pay you back when I get back into town. I'm like, all right,
Damn,
cool.
You really putting it out there like that.
Yeah, I'm putting it out. Front Street. What street is this? Front Street.
I thought I was being vulnerable showing my call room, but I guess you're just going to put out our finances. I got you.
Everybody
Okay,
got
cool.
a call room, baby. Everybody got a call
got
room. So that particular discussion wasn't as contentious as you would think it would be, at least not between us. The contention came actually when it came to figuring out what we should pay off first. Because for me, I was like, well, I have IRS debt. Like, this is not Sally Mae, like, well, if you don't pay it, we just gonna keep sending you stuff. This is not, oh, well, you could just forbear it or you could defer it. That's not what this was. And this man, I think he got some bonus or something for work. I'm like, yeah, we need to pay off that IRS debt first, because that is going to make us the most vulnerable. And he was like, why we got to pay off that debt first? I'm like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
I just saw your social security number on it, not mine on it. So I was just like,
Ooh.
they coming for you.
Eventually, so he was actually leaving for work. He had a locums gig and he was leaving for work. And this argument kind of went on for like a weekend, you know, like me calling him at work, him calling me at home and things like that. And then he finally just conceded and he was like, you know what, you're right. Let's just pay off the IRS debt first. We ended up paying that off first. As far as putting our money together,
That wasn't an issue.
that really wasn't an issue. So, you know, I know some people do, you have an account, I have an account, and then we have a joint account where we put things together. We actually just have multiple joint accounts, which I know some women who are probably listening like, girl, no, you better have your money on the side. And I will be very transparent. I actually do not have money on the side. And no, I'm not hiding. I'm not just saying that because my husband's on the podcast. I actually don't have money on the side. That was a decision that we decided to come to as a couple, and it worked.
I think part of it is separately, I think we both had really good role models with parents.
Mm-hmm.
And from all accounts, I had the experience of everything went into one pot and then everything got paid from one pot. My mother worked, my dad worked, and then everything was put together. And I later on found out that they had like separate accounts, but they still put things together. But that was for me, my mindset of whatever is my money is my wife's money. We put our money together and figure it out.
So I am curious, and maybe this isn't a change. How do you think the way you handled money as an individual changed when you got married, if at all?
Oh, easy. I was the type of person who I didn't spend a lot of money, but I wasn't very prudent with how I saved my money, basically. I did mental math, right? So a couple of things. One, when I was a resident, you know, I was in a house that I should not have gotten. I couldn't afford it. Literally, I'd say like 95% of my first check went to pay the mortgage. And then the second check at the end of the month, you know, was what I use for expenses and things like that. So if you came to my townhome, it wasn't furnished. It was just a couch and a TV because a couple of things, I didn't have the time to furnish it. And two, I couldn't afford to furnish it. So for me, I would do a lot of mental math to just say, okay, I'm sure by the end of the month, I shouldn't be overdrafted on my bank account. So there was a lot of nervous, you know, like, man, is that check gonna hit on the 31st or is that check gonna hit on the 30th if it's a weekend or something like that? That was me all through residency. Whereas Renee was a bit more measured with her spending and a bit more measured with her savings. When we came together and put our finances together and we started listening and watching and reading other podcasts, blogs, and so forth, we adopted this zero-based budgeting system and envelope system. Basically, if you had $100 to spend for the entire month, we were very intentional about saying $50 would go to the rent and then $20 would go to electricity and then $5 would go to food and just breaking it down so that every portion of that $100 was accounted for. And at first I was like, man, I really don't like to budget. Budgeting scares me. I don't want to deal with that. But I found out like afterwards, a month into it, I was like, this is the most freeing thing ever because I don't have to think about it anymore. I don't have to be stressed out at the 30th or the 31st that, yo, this money is not going to hit and we're going to get these huge overdraft fees. And for me, it really accelerated how I thought about, man, if we are really intentional, if I can do some additional work, man, we can get 2 times, 3 times X our student loan payments and other payments and so forth. So that for me was the big changes from me going from the mental math to actually putting it down and assigning each cent to something.
Yeah. I mean, I think the key for me was recognizing that if I'm going to work this hard for my money, I better know where every red cent is going to go. I don't want to have money out there where I'm like, oh, well, what did I spend it on? And realize that I spent it on fries. I'm not working for fries. So that was extremely important to us as we went through the budgeting process. It also allowed us to invest because we were not investing. I did not invest as a med student resident. The closest that I came to investing was I ended up opening up an IRA when I was in residency, but then my sister had a procedure that she needed to do. And I was like, well, let's just withdraw it and I'll give her that money because she needed it.
Was your money even invested? It was just in your account, right?
I don't even think it was invested.
So it was just in your IRA account.
Yeah, it was just sitting in the IRA. And so that was a major change for us in terms of our money, was that we started investing and learning so much more about what are the vehicles of investment that we can use in order to help secure our future or at least fund our future. So that was major.
Thank you all for the transparency, because I'm sure that there are people listening, maybe the majority are doctors, but some who are not, who may be surprised to hear some of the things that you all are saying. Like, you all are so open about the mistakes that you made, and even you talking about how you purchased a house, which I know a lot of people want to do, and then talking about how you didn't have the money to really furnish it. And you, Renee, being so open about having IRS debt, which some people are listening, it's like, how does a doctor have IRS debt? Or how does a two-physician couple have over $600,000 of student loan debt? That seems like a lot. So I appreciate your transparency, and I'm curious, how did you all pay it off? Like, $600,000 is not a small chunk of change. We give Brittany a lot of props on this podcast for paying off her debt. I think it was $600,000. Correct me if I'm wrong, Brittany. She's shaking her head. Absolutely not.
No, no, no.
A lot of call.
Yeah, a lot of work. When we say we went to work, we went to work.
Literally.
Literally. Exactly. So I mentioned before we were doing our permanent jobs. So we were doing permanent jobs, but we also continued to do locums. And for those of you who might be listening who don't know what locums is, essentially that's when you go on an assignment for, let's say, a doctor, a facility that has a need for a doctor, maybe for a weekend, maybe for a week, for however long, maybe a doctor's on maternity leave or whatever. And so we would do these assignments filling in for those needs while we were also doing our permanent position. So maybe on a weekend that I'm off, instead of being off and chilling, I would just go and work. And same thing with Nii. We actually decided that all of the money that we were going to have was, one, going to be budgeted. That was number one. So we budgeted everything that we needed, and then everything else that remained, like we paid our rent, we paid our food, budgeted for our food, anything else that we had, any bills that we had, we made sure those were covered. And then we would put towards our savings. I think we would do like 10 to 20% for savings. And then we decided that anything remaining would go towards our student loans. So you can imagine that our salaries already as permanent physicians were pretty significant, but then add that to our locums income, and we started to really, really push forward and pay down that debt.
Can I get a bit more granular? Basically, Renee, when she started working OB, but she did it part-time. And then I was full-time. She did it part-time mainly because we hadn't lived together ever. So she did it so that, I don't know if you guys know, but full-time OB is like way worse than full-time trauma surgery in terms of just busyness and being away. So she did a sacrifice so that we can make sure that, okay, she's working, she's getting the professional fulfillment that she needs, but she's also home enough so that we can build in our relationship.
I didn't get married to get divorced.
Right. And my job, I did a 2-week on, 2-week off model, right? So I would work for 24 hours one day, and then the next day I'm post-call, but I'm back up. So Monday call, Tuesday post-call, Wednesday call, and I do that for 2 weeks, and then I have 2 weeks off. But even before that, we made a decision that we're going to live off of Renee's salary. And everything that I made went towards student loan debt for her and for me. So remember I mentioned that I worked 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. So you can imagine, we're living almost like residents, a little bit above residents. We're very frugal of our money, but we're living off of her salary. All of my salary is going to pay the student loan debt. On top of that, Renee did some locums. All the money that she made from locums went towards student loan debt. All the money that I did, the other 2 weeks, I'm like, but I'm at home, not doing anything, right? Recovering from the previous 2 weeks. I can definitely do locums for like an additional 5 to 7 days. All of that money, including my own salary, went towards student loan debt. There were times where there was like straight up 20 stacks that we just said, in a month, student loans. Another month, 20 stacks, then 15. Over time, what happens is you put so much away, well, the interest can only accrue so much on a significant drop. So that's how we were catching up to them, because we both graduated $240,000 of debt. But through residency and they calling us and like, yo, can you pay? I'm like, nah, I can't pay. What's my option? Well, they said, well, you can forbear and we won't call you for 6 months. We're like, bet. But we didn't know the effects of that. By the time we graduated from residency and fellowship, we both had $330,000 of debt. So we went from 240 to 330. So the interest worked against us in that situation. So now we're married, we're putting stacks upon stacks towards the debt. The interest can't keep up anymore, and the debt just dramatically dropped.
Yeah.
So initially we were like, yo, let's pay this off in 5 years. We ended up paying it off in 3 years. But it was taxing. There were times during that same time we were trying to do IVF. There were times when the IVF didn't work or the medications didn't work, and I needed to be there so that we could procreate, and I'm not there because I'm working. So the debt played a major role, not only just in how we worked, but it played a major role in possibly us having kids. So it was a major problem for us.
And the reason that we chose to live off my salary was because it was the lower salary. That was very intentional. It was the lower salary. And so we said, well, if we can live off a lower salary, then everything else essentially should be able to take care of all the major priorities that we have in terms of this debt.
Yeah, no more red bottoms for Renee.
I don't even wear no daggone red bottoms.
Well, I want to say that this is very inspiring for so many different levels, right? You all were able to do something, at least for you, Nii, that you hadn't done before by shifting how you were doing things. Instead of being stressed out, you started to become strategic and taking really intentional moves with your money. Then you may have, I don't know if it was like a little bit of a downside or a downsize or a degrading of your lifestyle. You know, we all, once we graduate, once we start making money, then we typically inflate our lifestyle. But you all were able to restrict for a temporary time and focus on the goal and get to that goal. I love that part of your story. I want to take us back to something that you said about no one cares more about your money than you do. And I wholeheartedly believe that. That's something that I share with my audience as well. And that's life insurance. So one, you said you were in Miami at a party and you met a life insurance agent. So that is a story
I should have been
opener,
like this.
right? So tell us more about what happened there and then how you all reevaluated your expenses with that life insurance being one of those expenses and reallocated those funds towards paying down your debt.
Let me tell you something, man. I was stupid, yo. So I was at this party. This guy's asking me questions. He turns out he's an insurance agent. I'm on University of Miami's campus. Long story short, I met him on campus. And anybody who's listening, when they tell you about whole life insurance, they tell you all of these great things about whole life insurance, but you don't understand. Most people don't understand. I ain't understand. Most of the time, it's like in between cases that I was talking to this person, right? Yeah, you can use it as a bank. You can super fund it. You can do all these different things. And oh, by the way, once you sign up, let me get like 5 more of the referrals and stuff. So I was like, I bet. I'm doing the smartest thing. My parents ain't tell me anything about this. So, I'm up on game. So I tell Renee about it. You'll tell your friends. You'll give him the phone number and he's telling people the same thing. And I have no clue how whole life insurance works. All I know is that there's like 500 or 200 something coming out of my bank account. I'm making it work somehow. So he convinced us once we started putting our finances together to increase that amount even more. So after our first year of marriage, I saw how much we had put in. So we got a year-end statement, and I think y'all know where I'm going. I got a year-end statement that showed how much money we paid for this whole life insurance and then how much was actually in cash value. So basically you pay in, you buy insurance, and then there's a certain amount that like, okay, your money's going to buy insurance and it's like stacking, right? The amount of fees that were on this year-end statement was crazy. Like we had put in $12,000 each and like what was left after all the fees was like $5,000 each. I was heated. I was like, yo, we could have used this money to pay off some of this debt. So we called our man. I was like, yo, listen, like we in a situation where we gotta change this. We're paying for this whole life insurance that I barely understand. I don't understand why we really need it. We got these student loans that we gotta pay for. Also throw in the fact that we were listening to Dave Ramsey at the time, right? Like I'm not saying that we Dave Ramsey acolytes, but he was giving some good advice and stuff. And we was like, yo, he's listening. And the guy gave us the advice, the financial guy who sold us the plan. He's like, I don't think you guys should change your plan. I think y'all need to budget better. And there was this big pause. And I was like, yo, my man is right. But he ain't gonna tell me how to handle my money. That's how Renee thought about it also. So after that, we was like, yo, we done, we out. We canceled the plans.
We budgeted him out.
We budgeted him out. We canceled the plan. He was like, we don't need this plan. We're going to get term life insurance, which is much cheaper. We're going to get it for 25 years. And the plan is during those 25 years, we're going to get our finances right so that by the time 25 years is done, we're self-insured. So we went from paying like stacks on stacks to like $99 each for, a $1.5 million plan. So when we gave up that whole life insurance, there's something called a surrender value. And we were able to get, I'd say realistically, 70% back of our money.
Mm-hmm.
And this is, in essence, what sparked us to really get our student loans paid off. Because the other thing we didn't tell y'all about is we had $170,000 of that $662,000 of debt was in private loans, right? Because we got our MBAs. And the interest rate on those private loans were anywhere between 10 to 13%.
Wow.
So all of that surrender value that we got back from getting rid of our whole life plan, we just put right straight towards our private loans and it dropped it significantly. So in essence, we budgeted him out of the way, made some smarter decisions, and that started the process of, you know what? We're going to have to start taking care of our own money. We're going to have to understand this a little bit better, Renee. We have to be better
Yep.
custodians of our stuff because people just going to sell you, if you're not
Yeah.
careful, they're going to sell you something and it's great for them. It may not be great for you. Then I had to contact each and every person that I gave them as a referral. Seriously, ask
Apology
Renee.
tour.
I called each and every one. I was like, yo, my bad, yo. It's like 2 years, yo. Like, listen, we getting rid of this guy because of X, Y, and Z. We decided to do term life. We got rid of it. We got a surrender value and we did this. My bad. I'm sorry. And from that point onwards, we don't do referrals for any financial people at all, unless we've worked with them for several years and we know the ins and outs.
I wanted to, again, reiterate that nobody does care about your money more than you because remember, I said that we had gotten those life insurance policies before we got married. So guess who was not my beneficiary when we got married? And so about 8 months to a year into it, right around that conversation that Nee described, I said to Nee, it's funny. He's asked us to increase our policies, right? He's asked us to increase our policies, increase our premiums, but he has never asked us to change our beneficiaries because as my husband and as your wife, we are the ones that will take the hit if one of us ends up passing away, not the beneficiary who is currently on our policies. I'm like, this man doesn't care about anything. And he was also trying to be our financial advisor. That was the other thing. He kept pushing us to go to him for him to be our financial advisor. And I said, well, he can't possibly be our financial advisor for 2 reasons. One, he's not looking out for our best interests as a couple because otherwise he would have been like, hey guys, you just got married. You need to change your beneficiaries to each other. That's number one. And number two, okay, I invited him to come and do a talk at, I won't say the conference, but y'all know it's a student conference that all of us probably were involved in. And this Mickey Ficky said that he could not afford to host a $5,000 reception. I'm like, how can't you afford to host a $5,000 reception? But you trying to tell me what to do with my money. You all up in my pocket. So that's when I was like, you know what? He doesn't know what he's doing.
This is a house of cards.
Let's just end this relationship now. And we were just done.
Yeah. Thank you for being so transparent because I think that this happens to a lot of physicians where they have good intentions. They're like, okay, I want to protect myself. I want to protect my money. Maybe they don't know as much about finances as they would like. And so they reach out and get help. And then they end up meeting somebody, an insurance agent, a salesman, somebody who calls themselves a financial advisor who offers to help them. They seem personable. They seem extroverted. We vibe. And so they just pick that person, not realizing that that person may not have their best interests at heart. Or what I find is that maybe sometimes the person who sold it to you doesn't even know the downsides of the own product that they're selling. They genuinely believe in the product, which makes you believe in the product. And it's not until you educate yourself further or talk to other people that you realize, hey, this thing has some downsides, or this may not be in my best interest. And I think for some strange reason, whole life insurance is one of those products, probably because it nets the person who sold the policy a big commission. So it's one of the things that I hear a lot of people trying to sell. And I find it interesting that they sold it to you, even as somebody who didn't have dependents at that time. Life insurance isn't for you. It's for your family. It's not that you didn't have a family, but I'm just saying, like, you weren't married at the time. You didn't have any kids at the time. He's convincing you to buy something that you technically do not need or have way other financial priorities that you should have taken care of first. So thank you for telling us about that, because I think that this happens all too often. So many people fall into that trap. I have so many more questions for you. I'm trying not to hijack this podcast because I know Brittany does too. One of my questions is, did you guys ever find a financial advisor? What did you do to vet him or her? And then any regrets, totally different, any regrets about paying off your student loan debt? Because you all had over $600,000 in student loan debt. And there are some people listening that might say, why did they pay it off? Isn't there this public service loan forgiveness program? Aren't there other loan forgiveness programs? Couldn't they have invested that money and then slowly paid off the debt, or invested that money and gotten their debt forgiven? Like, why would they pay it off? So I'm just curious, y'all's take on that.
So we actually talked about this on our podcast a few episodes back. And my answer was, I absolutely have no regrets paying off that student loan debt. None whatsoever. And the reason is the psychological weight that that debt had on me. It was worth it to pay off the debt. had I not paid off the debt, it would have just always lingered in the back of my mind, number one. And number two, we think about kind of what Nee talked about, interest working against you, especially considering some of the private loans that we had, 9%, 10%. For me, I'm just like, well, what is the risk that we are taking that potentially, if something should happen to our jobs, to us physically, what is that risk that we are taking that we will not be able to pay off that debt as steadily as we want to? So that's number one. Number two, PSLF wasn't that big of a thing when we were paying off our debt. We were a little old. Even in the face of PSLF, honestly, I will tell you, I probably would not have started to qualify for PSLF until after I finished my residency, which would have put me about 10 years out because I wasn't making those payments. So that would have been the 10-year start for me. And I'm just like, no, I would have preferred just to pay it off. And I know that was your second question. I can't remember what your first question was.
How do we get through our financial advisors? Right now, we're on our third financial advisor. After the insurance debacle, so here's the other thing too. I tell people, beware of taking advice from other medical professionals. I'm telling y'all right now, not to dish you, like you guys know what you're talking about. Everybody listen to these sisters. They know what they're talking about. But like, I'm talking about like the advice that you get from like the surgeon's lounge while watching whatever news channel you're watching or CNBC and stuff. Yo, like this is my guy. Let me give you his phone number. And how you know he's a good guy? I don't know. He's just my guy. He takes care of me. Be careful. Especially if the person who's giving you the advice to go contact somebody else can't really tell you a couple of things. One, how they pay that person. Two, why they think that person is their guy, right? It's just like, no, it's my guy. Well, why? Well, that's just my guy. I bet I got you, right? Be careful of those things. So the second financial advisor we found was from word of mouth from one of my colleagues. We were residents together. Shortly afterwards, my man tried to get us into another whole life plan and also tried to get us into annuities. And I was like, yo, man, like the jig is up on this, man. So we left that person and then we found another person, and this was based off of a recommendation from a CPA that we found. But that financial advisor really just wasn't very personable and it wasn't a good match. And then we found our current advisor through something called the XY Network. We're listening to podcasts, we're reading blogs, and we found out about the XY Network, which was at the time the network that was allowing basically that it was just fee-only advisors. We got them through FinCon. We went to FinCon, and these were a list of vetted financial advisors. So we met with this financial advisor. We found out how she got paid. We negotiated that down significantly. And we basically gave her a timetable. We're like, look, we're only going to work with you for a couple of years because afterwards we're taking it over on our own. And the amount of times that this person has saved us from making really bad mistakes, not from a saving or a retirement standpoint, but from like a taxes standpoint, we've just decided to keep working with that person. So I think the biggest thing that I would give in terms of advice is, one, know how you're paying your financial advisor. Two, really pay attention to what types of advice they're giving you in terms of what to do with your money. Are they helping you build wealth just with normal products? Are they helping you pay down debt? Or are they having you purchase products that you really don't know much about? If you find yourself in the latter where you're purchasing products that you really don't know much about and you're not sure, you kind of have to have like a red light go on and be like, look, I got to do some more research before I go down this path. So just be really careful. It's like the insurance companies or the insurance agents that are almost like financial agents, you got to be really wary of them, right? Like our first person who was selling insurance was like, now that I got you guys in whole life, maybe I can start getting you guys into investing your money. And I was like, well, who are you thinking about investing with? Oh, it was like our own company has our own stocks and all these different things. This was a mutual life insurance company. Right. So that wasn't the best type of investment strategy for us. I'll be very open and honest with you guys. We just do Vanguard. We buy Vanguard stocks and mutual funds from them because it's cheap, it's simple. And to be honest with you, I don't have the time to like go through stock reports and all that stuff. We just follow the index. We have Fidelity for every now and then, but we don't really invest in individual stocks. We don't have time for that. We keep it very simple. We follow the market and that's it. So that works for us. And that financial advisor that we're with right now, that's her philosophy and it works for us. And I know plenty of people who do it on their own and they're super happy too. So there's just a lot of options out there.
We're going to stop this conversation right here, pick it back up next week.
As physicians, one of the most important things that we can do is make sure that we secure our income. because a lot of our financial plans are contingent on our high doctor income. One of the things that you will need to do is make sure that you get long-term disability insurance.
Now, Pradeep and his team at PKA Insurance Group have a reputation for putting people over profits and always doing what's best. Do not hesitate to email PKA Insurance and his team today.
They will help you get the insurance you need with the service you deserve.
And now, time for some fun money. All right, Brittany, what are you doing over there fun with money?
Well, Alicia, I think I told you in prior episodes about my birthday and that I was going to use a gift certificate to go and get a massage and leave my husband at home. But what I realized is that the company closed down. This is the problem with purchasing gift certificates and not using them, right? So they closed the location that was close to me, the location where they reopened, and they gave us a new gift card for it. That location is about 45 minutes away. So there was no way that I was going to drive 45 minutes for a massage. So instead, I paid cash for one. And girl, it was the best massage on.
Really?
Yes, that I have ever had. Let me tell you, it was a Thai massage. This woman walked on my back. When I told my mom that, she's like, I hope she was small. And so she walked on my back. She stretched. I had hot stones, warm towel. It was so good. And my shoulders, they just feel so relaxed today. So I'm going to budget that in. That has to be a monthly expense for me because it was fantastic.
That's so funny. Maybe our listeners don't know, but you are not the largest person. And so the idea of somebody walking on your back, I'm like, was this a child? I'm just like, what? And you were withstanding that and finding it like an enjoyable experience. So this is interesting.
Massages are not for everyone, but for me, it's a little bit of pain, but it's like that pleasurable pain. It's like the hot shower with the water is a little bit too hot, but it relaxes you. I don't know. Maybe I'm just strange in that way.
You know, it reminds me of this massage that I got in Costa Rica, the Costa Rican massage, and they also use the hot zones. And I remember talking to my friends and saying, I think they used some roller on me. And my friend was like, girl, that was her elbow. You know, I get it that sometimes they can use some different techniques and maneuvers in order to get the desired effect. So I'm going to keep along those lines. One of the things that I have been inspired to do is to get a pedicure. I like to think I have decent feet, but my friends were a little too honest with me when we went on vacation. And they said, Lisha, when was the last time you had a pedicure? And so they have inspired me to get a pedicure at the nail salon. You know, you sit in those chairs and the thing kind of massages your back while they're kind of working on your feet and rubbing all these oils and things. And so I think I'm going to allow myself to have that experience. So I'm going to spend some fun money and get a pedicure.
Yay, yay. It's so funny because we are the opposite. I will get a pedicure, but then I don't get my nails done. And as you can see, like I need my nails done now. I'm going to put on some press-on nails before I go to this conference, but I'll cut them, I'll shape them myself, but I just don't get my nails done and I get my toes done. So it's really interesting how we have some shared alignment with how we spend our money, but then we're very different in that way.
Yep. Hopefully you all enjoyed part 1 of that interview with Doctors Nii and Renée Darko. We will be back to you again next week with part 2 of our conversation.
Hello, and thank you for listening to our podcast. And because of that, we have something for you, our Wealthy Minds Blueprint.
Have you ever thought to yourself, I wish I could be better with money? Do you want to start investing and saving for retirement, but keep delaying because you don't know where to start? Our Wealthy Minds Blueprint is here to help.
This guide will teach you what you didn't learn in your training so you can stop being confused about money and start taking what we call wealthy-minded action.
We'll help you become a master of your finances and simplify investing so you can get started today. Take control of your financial future by downloading your free copy of the Wealthy Minds Blueprint now and start building the wealth you deserve.
One of the most important things you can do is ensure you have long-term disability insurance. Long-term disability insurance secures your income if the unexpected happens and you are unable to work due to medical illness, chronic conditions, or an accident.
Unfortunately, all insurance agents aren't created equal. Some of them are so focused on making a sale that they fail to reveal certain necessary information, tell you about discounts available, or clearly explain the process. Pradeep Bhatto and his team at PKA Insurance Group are different. They have a reputation of putting people over profits and always doing what's best.
If you need life insurance or disability insurance, reach out to Pradeep and his team today. They will help you get the insurance you need with the service you deserve.
Hello, everybody. It's me, Brooke. I'm recording a little disclaimer for my mommy, Dr. Brittany Halford, and her friend, Dr. Lisa Taylor. Just so you know, they're not financial advisors, tax professionals, lawyers, or financial planners. Everything you hear is for education and entertainment. It's not strict financial advice, you know. So use your best judgment, chat with a tax professional, and all those other people that you need to talk to. Thanks for tuning in today. Keep cruising on your journey to wealth and wellness. Bye-bye.